Greetings. This is the one you've known as Jesus the Christ. Listening is not natural to your default programming. What's most natural and automatic is to say what's on your mind. People give voice to the voice in their head. This is what most conversation entails. Most conversations are between two egos, two conditioned minds, agreeing or disagreeing about their viewpoints, and sharing their likes, dislikes, fears, and desires, because this is primarily what the voice in your head is interested in. It speaks to you and to others about what you like, what you don't like, what you want and don't want, and what you believe. Sometimes you do share facts, and that's useful. The voice in your head isn't always irrational, but it tends to share facts that uphold its point of view and serve its desires. So even in sharing facts, the voice in your head is not wholly objective. There's something that is objective and also listening in on every conversation you have. I say listening in because it's usually more of a bystander or witness to what your ego, is saying than what speaks. What I'm referring to is the divine self, your true self. It's always here and always available to add its wisdom to the mix. But it isn't always given a chance to do this because the tendency is to be identified with the voice in your head, the ego, rather than your divine self. Something needs to happen for this to change. A shift in your state of consciousness is necessary before the divine self comes forward sufficiently to be experienced and given voice to. That's not to say that it's never given voice to even by the most ego-identified individuals, but most people have very little awareness of themselves as their true self and pretty completely identify with the thoughts that flow through their mind. These thoughts are what they believe and what they think about whatever subject's brought up, and there isn't a lot of examination or questioning of these thoughts. The way this changes is that you begin to become aware of something else that's present besides the thoughts that run through your mind, something that is aware of these thoughts but doesn't comment on them, evaluate them, judge them, or try to change them in any way. What is aware of your thoughts and everything else you're experiencing is your true self, and it's objective, neutral, and accepting of whatever you choose to do with these thoughts, believe them or not believe them. This is why many aren't aware of their true self, because it doesn't have an opinion, a judgment, an evaluation, or any other comment about you, your life, or others. That which holds opinions, judgments, and evaluation of good and bad is the false self, the egoic self, and people become entranced by its stances. They're fascinated by what they think and what they like and what they believe. The egoic state of consciousness is a state of consciousness that's obsessed with its opinions, beliefs, fears, and desires, and this seems perfectly normal, as nearly everyone else is also involved in such thoughts. Can you experience yourself as what is aware of these beliefs and stances, but not committed to them? Can you find the part of you, which is really your true self, that is aware of the human condition of having thoughts and believing them? Can you experience the part of you that views the human condition from a place of not being human? That's the nature of your true self. It isn't human. It isn't caught up in the egoic programming that makes you human. It witnesses your life and accepts whatever's unfolding in your life without interfering with your choices, although it does try to influence them at times, which it does through your intuition. Your true self is not human. I know that may seem strange to some of you to think of it this way, but it's helpful to see this. If you stop a moment now, can you experience yourself as something other than human? As space, as awareness, as emptiness, as that which witnesses or notices everything that's going on. The value of this is that if you can experience yourself this way, and if you focus on this experience of yourself, you can see yourself and others more objectively, without all the stories and spin your mind puts on others and on life. And what's the value in this? The value of this is that you're outside of suffering and in a state aligned with love and peace. That is your true nature. You are love and peace, and in complete equanimity with whatever's going on, which is why there's no suffering in this state of consciousness. I say this is a state of consciousness, but that makes it seem like something that comes and goes, when the experience of your true self is merely temporarily hidden by the egoic state of consciousness when you're identified with your thoughts. The natural state is like the ever-present sky that's covered over to one extent or another by the clouds generated by the egoic mind, the thoughts about me, the stories about your life, the fears, and the desires and preferences that so often dominate your thoughts. Listening is a way of dissipating these clouds because it's the opposite of what the ego does. The ego thinks and expresses its thoughts. It doesn't listen. Listening is receptive, and receptivity opens up your intuition and access to your true self, to the state of consciousness that the ego is unable to exist in. Listening is anathema to the ego because it stops the ego from doing what it does. That's death to the ego, because all the ego is a mass of thoughts, a constant stream of thoughts, mostly coming from the unconscious mind, out of nowhere and of questionable value. People are addicted to their thoughts because people are programmed to be addicted to them. That's the challenge of being human. The antidote is listening. Listening to your own thoughts rather than thinking them, and also listening while others are speaking without chiming in. What I mean by listening to your own thoughts is simply noticing them without getting involved in them. Isn't that what you do when you listen? Listening is just listening and nothing more, not evaluating or thinking or engaging in thought in any other way. Listening is just listening, just receiving, just noticing, without reacting or forming an opinion. What if you interacted with others this way too? What if you just listened to them without getting entangled in trying to fix them, or one-up them, or convince them, or inform them? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with doing these things. It's natural as a human being to do these things. But what happens if you don't? What happens is you become aligned with your true self, and consequently, your intuition and innate wisdom, love, joy, and acceptance. And when you embody these qualities, your relationships can only improve, including your relationship with yourself. If you stay aligned with your divine self long enough, it will share its wisdom, love, joy, and acceptance with others, and that can only be good for this world. If you listen long enough, the divine self will begin to speak through you for your benefit and the benefit of others. When you listen long enough, your state of consciousness shifts, and you're outside of the egoic state of consciousness. You're free of the delusions, misperceptions, fears, and other negativity of the ego. You're free to be the beautiful, loving, and peaceful person you are meant to be. Being in this state of consciousness makes you a better and happier human being. And in fact, this is the only way you will become a truly better and happier human being. The happiest human beings spend a good deal of time in a state of consciousness other than the usual state. They've learned to shift their state, many of them without even realizing how they did this. Perhaps they learned to do this in another lifetime. That's the case with many who are able to stay in this state of consciousness for long periods of time. Those who are awakened live in this state of consciousness most of the time, and you can learn to live in this state as well. That's what the spiritual path is all about. One of the secrets to doing this is to practice listening or noticing. I'm using the term listening broadly to point to a state of receptivity and mental quietness, yet alertness, that is characteristic of the awakened state. The awakened state is a state of receptivity, openness, and awareness. Isn't that essentially what listening is? When you're intently listening to or for something, you're receptive, open, aware, alert, and curious. You listen because you want to listen. Why? Because you're curious. What will happen next? With listening, there's always another sound that will arise, and so it is with life. There's always something coming out of the now to be aware of, to attend to, and to love and enjoy. Life is amazing, mysterious, beautiful, and interesting, and this is why you listen to it. You give it your full attention because it deserves your full attention, your love. The same can't be said of the thoughts that run through your mind. They don't improve your life, they don't even tell the truth most of the time, and they don't belong to reality as much as a virtual reality that takes you away from reality. They don't serve you like listening to life from a place of curiosity, love, and acceptance. These thoughts take your attention away from the only thing that can truly satisfy, the present moment. You can't be involved with them and involved in reality and enjoying reality. You may enjoy some of your thoughts, but for the most part, they don't bring any lasting enjoyment, and many of them do exactly the opposite. The way to cultivate the capacity to listen is simply to pay attention to what is real, rather than to what is unreal, thoughts. You already know how to pay attention. You're already doing it every moment of your life. So learn to give your attention to what you may not be used to giving your attention to, real life, to what you're seeing, hearing, and experiencing through your body and senses right now. What is your present moment experience like right now? Is love here? Is peace here? Is gratitude here? Is contentment here? All these things are here right now in your moment-to-moment experience, and you'll discover this is so simply by choosing to pay attention to the subtle experience of love, peace, gratitude, and contentment, rather than the usual thoughts that run through your mind. Thank you for being willing to listen to this message. It's meant to bring you into a state of listening that is also your natural state. I am with you always.